Again, it's Tim. What I really want to talk about today is why it's so hard to get leads when it used to be easy. So back, I don't know, 2021, 2020, something like that, I wrote a book, the Cold Email Compendium. It had a bunch of like templates that I'd used over the years to really generate really freaking good leads. And over time, that has actually diminished. The efficacy of cold email has diminished. Part of it's because of Google and Yahoo and all that sort of stuff. They've put the crackdown on spam. But the real reason why it's hard to succeed in cold email, by the way, it's completely possible. And there are amazing tools like Clay and Instantly and Apollo. All of those tools are fantastic, and they really do help you find better people and create better emails. Not a slam on the tools, but as things like those tools that are highly automated, or in fact, straight up AI tools like Artisan, there's a new one called JSON, and I think there's another one coming out called Agent Frank. There's a bunch of these sort of cold email BDR in a box kind of things. And they have diminished the impact or even the impact of a quality cold email because they are automated. And even though AI is amazing, they may not be completely they're adding noise to the system. Even if it's good noise, it's still noise. And that can make it harder for you to engage. That can make it harder for you to grab attention. I really want to talk about today is thinking about kind of the hierarchy of impact. And so I've put together something called the impact gradient. And the impact gradient, this is not a judgment on the quality of any channel, but I want to talk about why some things might work better than others. So at the very bottom, we've got cold outreach, because at the end of the day, there's zero barrier to entry for cold outreach. Anybody with a Gmail account can do cold email. Or you may not be able to do it at scale, but you can do cold outreach and cold messaging on LinkedIn and Instagram and anywhere else you can think of, simply because you can. It's easy. There's no barrier to entry. That means it is likely to be a really noisy place. And the next step up is slightly less crowded, but also has a really low barrier to entry. It ads and webinars and that stuff where you're drawing attention. So ads have a really low barrier to entry because it could take you about 5 minutes to put together an AdWords campaign that got you out there. Now, you might not be able to do it sustainably, but the barrier to entry is really low. So that's why ads are very competitive. Now, obviously, high production ads, that puts you in a different category. Things like ads or even hosting a free webinar, that sort of stuff, the barrier to entry there is actually pretty low. It can be a real growth channel, but it is unlikely that it's going to be the core of your business. It's not something that you can build on forever. It is likely that you're going to hit some sort of ceiling there. Now, the next step up, and this is actually what we talk about in my Gen Plus approach. So we put these three things together: cold outreach, or ad or webinar, and this thing called authority content. Now, authority content is exactly what authority content is. It is showing someone through your actions and the information that you distribute that you know what you're doing, and they get a vibe check on you. They understand what it might be like to work with you. And because most B2B buyers have either already defined who the finalists or for whatever they're deciding on, or they've actually already picked the provider that they want to work with before they ever speak to anyone, this sort of authority content is incredibly important in growing your agency. Like it's dramatically important because this gives you the opportunity to show like, holy guacamole, I am a resource that shows expertise. And the barrier to authority content is actually pretty high because authority content does not work necessarily quickly. Sometimes it can, but often authority content just takes persistence. And if you are promoting authority content on social channels, the half-life of content on social channels is fairly short. But authority content also lives on YouTube. It can live on your blog, but it does take time for you to build a big enough corpus of authority content so that people have the opportunity to get pitched by you before they ever contact you. They get to understand your value, what you do, how you think, the way you act, who you are. So when it comes time for them to initiate contact or respond to one of your ad or a cold email, they already have a sense of who and what you are. So their decision-making process is already accelerated. Authority content is incredibly powerful. And to be honest, even though you might be finding all sorts of content folks on LinkedIn, I really do think we're just getting started with this because authority content takes all sorts of forms. It's podcast guesting. It's a newsletter. There's all sorts of things that define authority content. And right now, I would say that authority content is the most approachable high impact channel. Sort of a high impact theme, because it's not really a channel because there is multiple channels, but high impact activity that you can have on your lead generation. Now, the next step up from there would be something that's proprietary content. And this is something like you've written a book, or you're giving keynote speeches, or you have a thought out series on YouTube, or you have a podcast that offers real value and has insight and has depth to it. And so that proprietary content is stuff that other people can't copy because, to tell you the truth, I'm going to guess that somebody can copy this graphic really quickly because I made it in Canva. They're going to call it something else and tell you the same thing. But proprietary content is really difficult to recreate. So proprietary content elevates you to a completely different sphere of impact. Because if you've written a really good book, people want to know your thoughts about other stuff. So you are likely to get more opportunities and be brought into more conversations that you don't really have to work for. And so proprietary content, the barrier to entry is really high because you have got to have something to say and you have to be able to say it well, and you have to have the resources and foresight to be able to produce this so that it has the impact that you want. So that's hard. That's why you don't see every one of your competitors hosting a successful podcast or publishing a really great book, because it's hard. Now, the next step up is authority referrals. Authority referrals are like they're magical. An authority referral might be if you are working with a trade organization, whatever. Let's say it'd be, and I'm making this up, it would be International Federation of Dental Assistants, says you are their recommended resource. That's an authority referral because that high authority organization or presence has imbued you with all of their credibility. So it's just going to drive with real velocity into your arms. Now, There are certainly, frankly, there's other things like if you work with a franchisor and you are the preferred solution for all of the franchisees, that's a super great suite and spot to be in. Now, there can also be other kinds of authority referrals. Let's imagine that I'm just going to pick somebody that I think has got a lot of sway in the e-commerce space. Nick Shackelford. He is a guy with all sorts of companies. He's a super marketer. He has prominence. And if he said that, oh, you know what? I don't do SEO, but if I were going to go do SEO, this is the company that I would work with, and you don't even need to look any further. Bam. You're going to get people who are fans of Nick Shackelford and who appreciate his insights. They're going to be beating down your door. Those are the two kinds of authority referrals that can be incredibly powerful. And then there's this sort of transcendent impact of really good PR and really good mainstream or broadcast media presence. If you are somebody who is able to carve out some space in the cultural zeitgeist by appearing places, there's a guy that I've worked with before, Peter Shankman. He's a keynote speaker. He's a big ADHD guy, does a lot of stuff in public relations. He has been a commentator on CNN whenever there's a big corporate crisis or a company screws something up really badly. CNN brings in Peter to talk about it. Now, that is so much more powerful than an ad. Now, the fact that somebody who has, frankly, no stake in the game has said, this is a person that we trust. Like, that's transcendent. Like, that busts you outside of your industry, potentially. Like Chris Voss, he's guys written some great books about negotiation. He started at the FBI, and his skills in negotiation transcended his sort of law enforcement background, and now is an authority on all sorts of negotiations, regardless of industry. And so his proprietary content, his books, and his PR/media presence allowed him to transcend his original industry boundaries. And so you see throughout each step here, the barrier to entry, the quality, you have to be really good to get there, becomes much higher. And is everybody going to get to proprietary content or authority referrals or broad media exposure? No. It's not going to happen, despite what Andy Warhol said. We are not all going to be famous for 15 minutes. But if you can think about how to elevate your impact by elevating out of the noise, you are going to be able to find, attract, and land more clients, better clients, because they're going to respond to depth of content and insight rather than someone who responds to a terrific offer that's too good to be true. So as you are thinking cold outreach doesn't work, well, it does. It really does. It's just harder because it's very crowded. There's no barrier to entry. You might say ads don't work or webinars don't work. That's not true. They do. It's just very crowded and there's a low barrier to entry. So those places, you have to be savant level good at those techniques in order to really stand out, because it is so noisy. If you were in like the top 10% of cold emailers, if you're in the 7, 8, 9, 10% best in the world, you're still getting drowned out by some noise. It's helpful if you can find a way to elevate. Now, your ability to create authority content might be limited by your experience. It might be limited by your confidence. It might be limited by your actual understanding of your market. But truly, authority content is the place that you can find through a little bit of structure, a little bit of discipline, and it doesn't have to consume your life because this video is going to be like, I don't know, 13 minutes long. It took me roughly 5 minutes to make that gorgeous image. Because I use AI stuff, it's going to take me 4 minutes to edit it. This piece of authority content is going to take about 25 minutes from end to end. Anybody can do that. I want to help you create more authority content. I want to unlock that secret for you because it's going to help you get above the noise. Is it going to solve all of your growth ails? No, but is it going to give you some degree of authority and prominence that will be leveraged into new and better clients? As you were thinking about business growth, especially in 2025, as more AI happens, great content from people who know their stuff will continue to drive people to you because they've already been able to assess who you are, what you do, what kind of impact you're going to have, what it's like to work with you, so that when the sales conversation comes around, they're ready to go. What I really want you to understand is this hierarchy of impact: crowded, lower impact; less crowded, higher impact. And if you are lucky enough, your impact can actually transcend your audience and put you into a different sphere of influence. All right. That's enough for today. Talk soon.